Welcome to Colney Talk Podcast.
Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Welcome to another exciting episode of Colney Talk Podcast, your bite-sized breakdown show. I'm your host, Alex. First-time listeners, glad to have you here. And to my returning guests, thank you for sticking with me. As always, I talk a bit about the Arsenal match and pick out my top 3 Arsenal players who shined and one odd player not good enough I get to call out. Excuse the voice, but what a match. What a match. Goals flowing freely. The atmosphere at Selhurst Park was electric from the away Gunners, but I'm sure just like you, my excitement was dampened by Saka's injury. Who knows how long he's going to be out. Now we really have to step up and get these other players to fill in for him, which is an impossible task, but just had to celebrate and enjoy these players for what they did today. I couldn't really fully enjoy the victory because it felt like something was missing, something was off, and that was all about Saka, and that tells you how huge he is for the team. But that is so obvious that it doesn't need much of an explanation. But the other players combining, jumping in and playing really well, that was a lot to enjoy. Now, kicking things off in the first half, Arsenal came out swinging, and swinging they did because it was more about ball movement that was so quick through the midfield, a lot of quick passes. I think this was something the players demanded of themselves so that they get the upper hand playing in an away ground from a team they just played a few days ago. So they had to bring something different that wouldn't seem like there is a level of predictability or how they played or getting a sense of how Arsenal will play. But those quick plays and movements gave them a lot of chance and advantage in how quickly they move forward, especially in attack. The interplay between our forwards was fluid as one we have not seen in a while, and it was evident that these boys had to be excellent in terms of quick transitions for this match. There was nothing less than that. There was a lot of physicality coming from Crystal Palace, and we had to make sure that we really catching them on the back foot and staying on top of them. And my gosh, Jesus, he was an absolute terror. He was electric. I mean, netting twice in the opening 15 minutes of the game. His movement of the ball was causing havoc for Palace's defense, creating spaces for our midfielders to exploit. And Jesus was the real thorn in Palace's side. You know, continuing his fine form from midweek cup game. There were several moments in this game that this was such a good relief that he was rewarded, and he definitely paid it back in this game right from the start. And as things kept going, it felt like this was mismatches that Palace couldn't deal with. They struggled a lot with his movement and everything that he did, and they were in different flashes the way I saw it. And having to think about Saka's injury as a major concern, given how much that we've been going through, especially in this festive season and how many games are coming in, this is a flash that Jesus can come in and give us that relief. And I'm hoping that he stays on this streak. And his game represented that. It was so good. I mean, the way Arsenal played, it had a lot to do with combination of all the other players. Kai Havertz, he capitalized on a Jesus effort to score, tapping in the third goal, and Martinelli getting his own moments to shine and jump in as well. Odegaard was just a facilitator. He just came in as the last man to finish things off, but that didn't work as you would expect for him. But I think there was enough in front of him to do the job. So Kai Havertz, Jesus, and Martinelli were enough. In fact, too much for Palace. They couldn't handle a lot of that. Arsenal they responded really well in the face of so much of pressure from games that they should have handled easily. And in this one, they made sure that they would not repeat itself or drag it on in much longer minutes in the first half to get anything going. So that was really good because we were doing really well on attack. I mean, the way we played, there was a lot to be, really proud of. But defensively, we had shaky moments. I mean, it started after that goal that we managed to allow. And I say managed the way that we gave him a lot of space for Sar to level things up. It was quite weird moments, but then that kind of ran on, through the first half, and I just didn't understand how we couldn't shake ourselves and get back into the way we usually play defensively. But perhaps we wanted to get things fast, get our goals in, and then really shut things down. But I don't know, we could not find our feet defensively and stay compact as we would. As the game was going on in the first half, one of the standout aspects of our play was how we moved with the ball. As I said, Jesus was impressive, constantly looking to pounce on openings as they evolved. Now, here is what it felt to me. The difference with Jesus in this game, no hesitation. He was dropping deep. He was linking with Martinelli and Odegaard to keep the attacking rhythm going. But moments that he found, he was able to jump right in without touching the ball a few times. He just had to unleash it, and that's a result of what he should have been doing in the past. Now, while we created plenty of chances, our rhythm was a little bit off, but we tried to get the rest going. We had moments where we could have easily given Crystal Palace a couple of costly goal-scoring gifts, but thankfully, luck was a big deal for us. It really was. And as we kind of managed to deal with those shaky situations, it felt like they kept dragging on quite a bit, but not so much because we held possession, we managed possession, but then the defensive shakiness had different spots. It starts with Saliba, we had Raya come in there, and we had a lot of the dispossessed balls in very dangerous, situations. It just didn't go away for a while, and these were instances that our shape seemed disjointed, and felt that the pressure that we were already on from Crystal Palace's press even added a lot more in how we were not keeping our composure as we wanted to build up and move forward again, or at least reset. So that was a lot of Arsenal's dealings as far as the first half went, but there was a lot more that we balanced out with the early goals, and we had at least 3 goals in going into the half, and that was good enough to find room to correct and stay locked in to clean up those messes. In the second half, Arsenal continued their dominance, but hadn't quite claimed the dominance in terms of a controlling fashion, if you know what I mean. The subs that we had came in as well to add the fresh energy to our left side after we had to reset the whole thing, seeing Saka wasn't present. And it was great to see Calafiori back on the pitch after his injury layoff. Miles Lewis-Skelly, he is such a great addition to the team right now, because that is one pressure that we don't have to think about for a while. And hopefully he continues to do that and keep the quality as it is right now, to give Calafiori a lot more time to get fully fit and get some of that rest, so that the duration of him staying healthy is even more. I mean, even on the pitch, when he got hurt by a horrible tackle, I thought, man, back to square one again. But thankfully that wasn't the case. And we enjoyed a lot of these gameplay with the other players as they added that additional energy to keep things going. We dealt with the pressure from Crystal Palace because the players were able to come in and not drop any levels. The pressure that Palace tried to put to us, even from the second half, trying to find their way back into the game, it was really marginal, and they really could have done that. So there was a lot of kudos in how the players dealt with that. We began to see a lot more direct plays, which paid dividends as we capitalized on Palace's mistakes. Now, the combination play between Jesus and Martinelli became increasingly effective, and they started to exploit spaces from the left to the right now that Martinelli was taking that position. And it was a lot for Martinelli to feast on. And I thought, my gosh, I hope he can do this for a good while. And he really enjoyed it. I think there's a lot more that he should take into account, that he can do this very well on the right. And maybe the pressure is on for him now to deliver, because it's not just those goals, but he has to connect with the rest of the players. Despite our 5 goals, there were still moments, as I said, that our finishing could have been better. Set piece is just, undefeated. We're really good there. In fact, one of our goals definitely came as a result of a recycled ball possession there. So we're really good in that. But I think I still would hamper on our finishing, because we need to be tip top. These games that we're going to be facing, the finishing will be the major difference. And, while we can get our rebounding, prowess higher up to get us those moments to stay on top, it starts with those really good chances when they come in front of us, because we're going to have less and less, at least I want to have less and less conversation about how poor our finishes are. And even when we may be 3 goals ahead, 4 goals ahead, we should not overlook the fact that there's still more to be done there. So at least that is somewhere, some part of the Arsenal game that I can continue to talk about to improve. From another tactical perspective, one of our key reasons for our successes was how we utilized the width throughout the match. The fullbacks of Timber and Lewis-Skelly pushed up high, but didn't really go in so much of the overlapping, runs that we had as much, because we had the combinations and interlocking between Trossard, Jesus, and Martinelli, doing enough of that. But we did pull that into the game more so in the second half, and that was great, because in fact that led to a couple of the goals that had come in. So this tactic not only stretched Palace's defense, but it also allowed the players from the middle, for the midfield, especially Declan Rice, to really shine and run with the ball with movements that he could dictate, which he did. And he got a goal from that. So that was great. The boys managed this situation. And I think the major part of this was how the team played, knowing that this was a different side of an Arsenal team that they were playing compared to the game they had played during the midweek. So a lot of those were a huge factor, and thankfully they came out with flying colors. So it was really good. In the end, the boys turned up, scored the goals, and shared minutes reasonably across the board. So that was really, really huge, and that's something that I always like to see from the entire squad. Now, let me touch on my top 3 stand-up performances from this game. First player, Jesus. He was instrumental in our attacking play throughout the game. He came on a high from the midweek, opening our scoring in early time, well-timed run in the box, showing the poacher skills that he's always had in the past, that now it's showing itself off. Good finishes with low crosses from Martinelli. His ability to link up and play without hesitation was key. It really was. And it allowed him to do a lot more. I mean, Jesus showed his creativity by playing very good link-up games with Martinelli, and that was very evident. I mean, his pressing was relentless. He consistently harried Palace's defenders into difficult situations, which had a few of our turnovers from the middle of the field to get things going back again. And again, his movement of the ball created spaces throughout the match. This is something you can hear me say in the previous pod of what Jesus had done and how I may have picked him as one of my top players. But the difference was, in this game, similar to the last, he did not do a lot of dribbling, a lot of slowing the game down or holding it up. He was very instinctive, reactive, and his execution at the time for at least the first 2 goals were just right top notch. And yes, he missed a couple of chances to give himself that other hat trick, but he was there. He was right there. So he should keep that hunger going, and hopefully he gets rewarded for another start because we need him much more than ever. Second player, Declan Rice. Yes, he came off the bench, but he was very good in controlling the midfield because we needed that control sooner. I mean, he didn't play in the first half, and there was evidence of his presence not helping control things as much as I would have liked. His prowess defensively was good in keeping things at bay because we had to deal with that from midfield. The threats were a lot, but as soon as he came in, you can see that cool enough, and he was able to sort of defer those press and threats away from our dangerous positions. And he was in full display. He delivered very nice passes in positions on the wing that kept us in the game, and his switch plays was really good. And the way he continues to read the game and allow the players to play in different positions was really phenomenal. It almost comes back to the same point that I have probably talked about as far as Saka's absence. Rice would come in and do a lot to allay those pressures that would come in either from one position, but have him distribute the ball to either Trossard or Martinelli, or at least get some of those connections back to, sort of dance away from the press that we were dealing with early in the game. So he was good. His composure under pressure was just what we needed, and he maintained that throughout the game. And I think that was a great way for him to really show the qualities we need from him and other players to follow through. So that was good for Declan Rice. Third and final player, Martinelli. He continued to raise his form, and I will stay on him to raise it because time is ticking. We need more from him, and I think there's going to be a lot more following this. And it was a good performance, from him playing on the left and then switching to the right. His movement was exceptional, and he frequently made diagonal runs that pulled defenders out of position, and he really excelled on the right side, taking Saka's place. I think he was as involved and threatening in goal, especially on the right, that I'd seen in a while. So hopefully he can do that again and again and show that there's a reason why he can comfortably stay in the right for a good minute. So hopefully we can see more of that in the other games. Now, let me address an area of concern. Arsenal's defending looked shaky at times, a lot more times in this match. While we scored 5 goals and dominated possession overall, there were moments where composure seemed lacking at the back. I mean, our defensive line occasionally appeared disorganized when faced with quick transition from Palace. I mean, the mistakes would have killed us. And, from Palace, their counterattacks exposed us, and it really could have cost us in very dear situations that it was going to be hard for us to recover. Thankfully, that was not the case. The energy that we had to score these goals probably was not equally the same when we had to maintain our defensive concentration and keep things in check. We didn't do that. There were instances where communication broke down between defenders. This led to players being caught out of position or leaving gaps for Palace to attack. It just felt like we had things opened up. I don't know, but the game was not like us defensively, and we seemed vulnerable. And that's something we've not had in a while. So a lot to take from this as a humble pie and learn from, and, and move on from, because we needed to reset ourselves back to what identity is and not really tear it apart as far as how we want to keep our composures. As much as this victory is worth celebrating, it is certainly something that Arteta would need to address from the defensive lapses we have, and then stay on top of the team in terms of our goal executions. 5 goals is amazing, but I know we could have done more than that. So, that's still the hunger that we should push for these players. Overall, this win over Crystal Palace was amazing. It showed that we have the attacking capabilities that we have lacked in the past few games. But it also highlights where we need areas for improvement defensively, because these players that we have are doing the job, and we should maintain that on a very high level, because as we keep going, it's going to call for those consistencies and nothing falling off as we go on. This result is undoubtedly encouraging as we keep having these games come in thick and fast, and at the same time, big prayers for Saka's injury, because it has for sure cast a shadow over a very otherwise jubilant performance and thinking ahead of what may happen. So we'll see. I mean, seeing returns of Calafiori adds more depth and competition for places as the squad continues to grow. But we also need to have that same idea for the attacking positions and who can fill in when we have Saka's absence, because it's, again, overshadowed what I've said much of this pod. So we hope to see and hope to get better news afterwards. All right, that will do it for this episode. Thank you all for tuning in. Remember, like, subscribe, and share. Until then, take care.